From the Iron Bowl to the Sunshine Showdown, say that 5 times fast, we've got Florida State, a 6.5-point road favorite at Florida. This game carries an over-under of 50 points. It kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. The story of the game, of course, it's an unfortunate story, but injuries to both quarterbacks. Jordan Travis, his collegiate career is over. If you had the misfortune of seeing what happened or paying a little bit too close attention to what happened on the video, nasty leg injury, he confirmed that he is done playing for Florida State. And then Graham Mertz on the other side also won't play in this game. Now, I downgraded Florida State 6 points for Travis, and I docked Florida 3 points for Mertz, who was playing pretty well. We've talked about it a couple of times this year. That surprised. He actually is doing well despite what most people, myself included, were expecting in the preseason. Now, Florida needs the win to make a bowl. Again, when you're talking about Texas A&M, when you're talking about Florida, these higher-level historic SEC programs fighting for bowl eligibility, yes, they would like to make a bowl, but if they're going to be playing in, again, the Las Vegas Bowl, the Liberty Bowl, the Music City Bowl, how much motivation really is there to secure that 6th win rather than we could probably go ahead and finish this year up early? I think the offseason conversation will be, however, will be very different if he goes 6-7 and 5-7 in his first 2 years. So there's the motivation for Billy Napier to make a bowl, but when you're talking about the team as a whole, 50-50 in my opinion. I do like this Tate Rodemaker guy for Florida State, by the way. He's a longtime FSU quarterback. He knows the system. He's a veteran, knows the rivalry, knows what the swamp is like. He's been there before, although, he didn't play in that game. He's thrown for 5 touchdowns. He has no turnover-worthy throws this season in limited action, and he has the superior pass-catching weapons by far. Ricky Pearsall, amazing. He's not the best receiver in this game, and overall Florida State just has better receivers. Redshirt freshman Max Brown, I expect him to be the Gator starter. Looks like he is the backup here, and according to our lads and the stat sheets and stuff like that, it's a nice boost that he's at home, but again, he has the worst weapons. He has less experience. He's a bit less aggressive with the ball, at least he has been. It's interesting to see how these quarterbacks perform when they're put into a game without much practice or game planning versus when they've had a week to come out and actually game plan a little bit looser, maybe throw the ball a little bit downfield more. But so far, Rodemaker's been a bit more aggressive pushing the ball downfield than Brown has. Now, another boost for Rodemaker, Florida's 119th in EPA per pass allowed. Florida State is 6th in that department. I hate to boil this entire matchup down to the quarterbacks. I know that's a very simple way of looking at it. It can be a flawed way to look at it, but to me, that's really where this game goes this year. Florida State, although I did downgrade them more than Florida, goes from an elite team to still a very good team, assuming that Rodemaker doesn't come out and pull a Cardell Jones and light the college football world on fire. Florida, to me, is a below-average Power 5 team with Mertz at the helm, has far fewer weapons on both sides of the ball. Florida State, I still think, is the better team here.
If I've said it once this week, I've said it 1,000 times, Brett. I love this game. I ran a Twitter poll, actually, this week asking which college football game is the biggest rivalry in the state of Florida. Gave a couple options. This is the one that won. It actually won by a pretty large margin. I kind of thought Florida State-Miami would get some love in there. I guess that rivalry's lost a little bit of its luster here since its peak in the 90s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. But this is a great game right here with Florida and Florida State. I have Florida State minus 12.5 in this one. It's at 81% win expectancy. You hit on it. The primary storyline here is the absence of QB1s, most notably Jordan Travis. But Florida State also has, as you mentioned, the ACC championship game against Louisville and Charlotte next week, and potentially a college football playoff to think about. Can Florida pull off the upset? It's a huge rivalry game, so anything is possible. But even without Travis, my model expects the Noles to have the advantage on both sides of the ball. This defense is currently ranked a season best number 8, and not having Travis won't impact that much, if at all. Hey, if he's not out there, is the defense on the field more? You get going down that road, but It's a good defense, and Travis doesn't play defense. So I don't think that that's really going to be an issue for the Florida State team in this game. And while Florida State certainly has a lot to play for, you touched on this, Brett. I think they've got quite a bit to play for in their own right with bowl eligibility on the line in the swamp this week. I get what you're saying. It is definitely, quote, more important, I guess, for Billy Napier and just the perception of progress or showing signs that he's the guy at Florida. To be clear, I do think he's the guy. We talked about this in the preseason. He got dealt a very, very tough hand with regard to the schedule in both 2022 and this year in 2023. Oh, and by the way, next year in 24, the schedule for the SEC, it's not any easier for him. So, gosh, it's hard, but having the same record as last year might actually show improvement. We just might not see it in the record. So if they can get to 6-6 here, give them a chance to go over 500 in a bowl game. I do think that there's stuff to play for here, and I think the Florida players, at least by all accounts for me as an outsider, I think they like Billy Napier. I think they want to play for him. So it's not like they're like, oh, if we lose this game, we can get coach out of here kind of deal, which I know that is the case in some places. So anyway, I think Florida's going to be motivated. But with that in mind, the offense, it's a top 30 unit with Mertz. Without him, I don't know. But the offense isn't a concern for me. It's the Gator defense. It ranks a season worst now, number 82. Throw Florida in that conversation that I talked about with LSU and USC too. You shouldn't have a defense ranked in the 80s or even below 40 when you're at Florida. There's too much talent right in your backyard. You have too much historical success, but also recent success. I mean, winning national championships and less than 20 years ago, playing in SEC championship games here less than 10 years ago. You've got to be better than number 82 on defense. I think Billy Napier agrees with that too and is working to make that happen. Anything can happen in a rivalry game, especially when the home team's the underdog. Like these are the best when you got the home team as the underdog because they got the crowd behind them. They're motivated. They want to pull the upset, ruin their rival season. All of that. It's still a heavy lift for Florida. Bottom line, I've got Florida State minus 12.5. It's a 19% chance that the Gators beat the Noles in Gainesville for the third straight time.
So you alluded to it earlier. I think having a new quarterback actually benefits Florida State backers in this game. I know that's a weird thing to say. Mm-hmm. Previously, it was a get in, beat your rival, get out with a healthy roster for the ACC championship game, which their berth is already locked, potentially a college football playoff. Now, it's get in, get the offense going under the new guy, take that experience and momentum into the postseason. They really have to fight for their playoff spot now. Florida State is tied in record with Texas or Bama or Georgia or Ohio State or Washington or any of those teams that may be all vying for that third and fourth spot. I'm not completely convinced that losing Jordan Travis doesn't change the minds of the committee and keep him out. Unfair as it may be, illogical as it may be, I don't trust the committee as far as I can throw him. And so I don't know that, you lost your guy, you're tied, or you're neck and neck with Texas. I think we're going to give Texas just a bump.
Are you saying that's even if Florida State's 13-0?
No. If they're 13-0, then they're no longer tied with Alabama or Texas or likely
understood
Ohio State and Washington.
Got it. I was going to say if they're 13-0, they're in. If they are not 13, if they are not 13-0, I don't even think it's I don't think it's that close. If they're not 13-0, the committee doesn't put them in.
Right.
And they can say, well, they don't have Travis. To me, I really think it's that simple. It's win your next two games, you're in the playoff. Lose one of the next two, I don't even care which one it is. Lose one of the next two, you're not in. Right. I think that's what it is. Based on how I'm viewing what the committee's doing.
Yep. To be honest, I like Florida State with the points. All the reasons I laid out before, better weapons. Quarterback looked okay. I know he's going on the road, but I don't want to say with Travis this game would be a lot more. Like your numbers are 12.5. That makes sense because I rated them 6 points, 12.5 to 6.5. But I think if it wasn't a complete unknown coming into this game, again, he's a veteran. I think the numbers overreacted a little bit. I'm getting below 7. I'm taking Florida State. They have a ton to play for. They're a terrific overall team. I question how good Florida really is. So it's Florida State with the points for me in this game.
I should note, sorry, that 12.5, yeah, you touched on it. I'm not explicitly accounting for no Jordan Travis. So, yes, I wouldn't make him 6 points. I know what you've said. I wouldn't make him 6 points, but I would make him a couple. I'd still lean them in the points like you just said.